says I am screen sharing. New share.
Some delay, not sure.
Can you see? No, no?
Not yet, not yet.
Not yet. Can I join again, maybe?
Mamin, is that a good idea, Mamin? Rejoining, I suppose.
Hello, sir. Sir, what did you ask?
No,
Sir,
I can't see my screen being shared. So I wonder, do I need to screen share or do I need to log out and log in again?
it would be better if you logged out and logged in, sir.
Yeah, okay, that's fine. I'll log in again. Can I join again?
Mamin, is that a good idea, Mamin? Rejoin, I suppose.
Hello, sir. Sir, what did you ask?
So I can't see my screen being shared. So I wonder, do I need to screen share or do I need to log out and log in again?
It would be better if you logged out and logged in, sir.
Yeah, okay, that's fine. And join again.
Mamin, is that a good idea? Rejoin, I suppose.
Hello, sir. Sir, what did you ask?
So I can't. Is it better now?
Yes, sir. It's perfect.
Good.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to this international webinar at Believers Church Medical College and Hospital. It's a great privilege to come back with one more one-of-a-kind and exciting webinar and present it to you, medical students and young doctors. Today, the topic in front of us is, I am a medical student and how can I get into research? And to speak on that and to throw light is a well-accomplished researcher and a distinguished neurosurgeon from the United Kingdom, Dr. Chandrasekharan Kaliyaperumal. Consultant neurosurgeon at the Western General Hospital and Royal Hospital for Sick Children, Edinburgh, Scotland, UK. Dr. Chandrasekharan Kaliyaperumal graduated from the prestigious JIPMA Pondicherry as the best all-rounder gold medalist. He went on to train in general surgery and neurosurgery in the United Kingdom and worked at the Great Ormond Street Hospital and trained there in pediatric neurosurgery. This hospital is supposedly the best pediatric hospital in the UK. So after training at the pediatric neurosurgery level, Sir has been across various platforms doing path-breaking research and has immense experience in medical research and publications. He's reviewer of various international journals and also has delivered numerous invited lectures. His main areas of interest are pediatric neurosurgery and adult neurosurgery, and he takes a special passion in letting the young medical students know about avenues in research and the gateway into international medical studies. So for that, we present you this important webinar, and to give an overview into the topic, to hand over to our we have our moderator for the day, our senior consultant endocrinologist, Dr. Philip Finney. Dr. Philip Finney trained in CMC Bangalore, both his undergraduate and his post-graduation in general medicine, and went on to train in his endocrinology at Bangalore. He has served so many years in the mission field as a missionary doctor. And last few years, he has been with Believers Church Medical College as a consultant endocrinologist, and has also been instrumental in mentoring junior doctors, medical students, and junior colleagues. Sir, it's a great privilege to have you as the moderator. May I invite you to give an overview and hand over the session to our wonderful speaker. Over to you, Dr. Philip Finney, sir.
Thank you, Jacob, and welcome Dr. Chandrasekharan Kaliparimal into our webinar. I'm just going to request, there is one person on the Zoom who is not muted, Sanita Cyril. May I request you to kindly mute your microphone, please? Sanita Cyril, can you kindly mute your microphone? It is creating a disturbance. Yeah, that's fine. Thank you so much. Thank you. When Jacob invited me to moderate this session, I noticed that the topic which Dr. Kaliparimal suggested is a very interesting topic. When I was a medical student in the 90s at Velo, there were just a handful of us who even thought about research. Our usual curriculum was quite daunting just to get through the routine clinical curriculum, the undergraduate curriculum. But I think there were one or two in my class who had an interest in research, and they were considered probably the weird and unusual students. But now things have changed so much in the last 20 to 30 years that it has become important that students ask good questions and do small research projects during their undergraduate curriculum. I think research is not something which is very exotic and esoteric. Research is just actually finding answers to some of the questions which keep popping up in medicine all through. And I think I had the privilege after my undergraduate training, when I was working in secondary level hospitals in North India, there were many issues for which I didn't find the answers in textbooks. Many problems which you read about in the textbooks had just probably a paragraph, but nothing more than that. Whereas we were seeing patients by the dozens who had problems which are a bit unusual, but not covered adequately in some of the Western textbooks. For example, organophosphorus poisoning was one of the problems I encountered day in and day out working in Bihar in a mission hospital. More than 400 admissions a year, 500 snake bite admissions, and with various aspects of treatment being unclear. And that led us to sort of document what is happening, what is the extent of the problem. And then slowly, with the help of a team, we were able to try to find some answers, which actually, when we published it, we got a lot of feedback. And I think it improved the care of our own patients in our hospital and elsewhere. So I want to just mention to you all that research is something which is doable, exciting, provided you have a curious mind and you ask the right questions. And when you ask the right questions, if you can network with a group of people who are like-minded, you can come up with very exciting original research and not fall prey to the predatory research journals. We just want some papers just for the sake of it, but rather do good quality research. And in India, it's a gold mine to actually do good quality research. Just that many of us have not been trained in research methodology adequately. So I'm really excited for our medical students to be part of this seminar. And I'm sure Dr. Kaliparimal, having had his roots in India and now working in the UK, you can share many insights from your life journey, which will inspire our students to consider and start off small but important milestones in their career. Thank you so much, Dr. Kali Perumal, and we really look forward to
Thank you, Dr. Finney, and thank you, Dr. Jasuran. I think Dr. Finney summarized what I wanted to say in the next 20 minutes very precisely. So my talk will be a bit redundant, I guess. So first of all, thank you so much for the invitation. I think when Dr. Jasuran contacted me, I was thinking what I should talk about. I should not talk about neurosurgery, but just something beyond neurosurgery. So this topic, came up as a result of that. So I always wanted, I wished I had you who could have sat down with me during my medical school days to say, this is what it is. This is what research is all about. I think this talk will probably break and loosen the aura that surrounds the word research for medical students. I think my target here is medical students because I think it's absolutely vital if someone teaches you or shows you the way how you go forward. So that's sort of precisely what I'm going to talk about. So if you hear any wind blowing behind it, just the wind today in Edinburgh is a little bit. It's not -7 today. It's fortunately it's okay, but it's quite windy today. So I have nothing to disclose. There's no financial disclosure, or I have absolutely no. I don't have any conflict of interest with anything. So whatever facts you're going to see in the slides which comes through will be properly referenced. I want you to go and look it up more than anything. I'm well aware that the human attention span is, I'm sure you all know there are two types of attention span. One is what we call the focused attention. It's only 8 seconds. So we're actually worse than the goldfish, which just got an attention span of 9 seconds. So the focused attention then moves on to more what we call, a different form of attention, which goes up to 40 minutes. So the lecture won't last that long, I promise. And I promise to make sure that I don't talk about neurosurgery during this lecture. But at the later part of this, there'll be some sort of correspondence to neurosurgery, just for you to understand why this is all about. Okay, so the question then we ask is, why now? I'm just a medical student. I mean, what made me very, inspired me was when I go for this international conference, I see second and third year medical students coming and talking in the conference, presenting so confidently. I always wished, why I didn't have this? Is it because my professors didn't teach me? Well, actually in those days, when I'm talking about those days, I'm taking you back just to 90s. So the attention was more focused on delivering the curriculum, as Dr. Finney has mentioned before. It's all about getting the curriculum so that you get a safe doctor out of the medical school. So the priority was not research during my days. Well, I know that I'm sitting here in a different place, but I could imagine the number of medical school obviously has increased. I still remember I landed here in the UK 17 years ago. There were about 290 medical schools. And I'm just now looking on the search engine, and I'm seeing that there are more than 500 medical schools and 64 postgraduate centers. So you can imagine the number of students who are there, and each one of you, as I say, enlightened mind, you just come up with an idea, you just can take it to the next level. But sometimes it takes time. So what I'm going to talk about is here, how to read a paper, okay? So scientific paper, medical journals, right? How to write an article, and what are the different aspects that surrounds that, okay? So, yes, so I remember my professor coming on to the following day after he meets me in the library to say, Chandrasekhar, I have seen you in the library holding New England Journal of Medicine. So what is it all about? Can you talk about it? So then it was very exciting because in front of my peers, and my peer review happened there. I was just looking at what's the case, interesting case published in New England Journal of Medicine. So these are golden moments to cherish because it starts with sort of subtle inspiration and also motivation by your professors. So, so myths about research, right? Again, I'm not going to break the myth now in one slide, but it will be broken very slowly over the course of the next few minutes. There are a lot of things you need to know as medical students. One thing is there's always two sides to coin, right? So you can't always accept anything by its face value. So you need to know how to read a paper just because it gets published in a very high impact journal, high impact is impact factor journal, it doesn't mean that they're always accurate. You just have to take a step back, read the article, just go back and see what they are conveying. Is it properly, researched? And so the methodology, okay, so we'll talk about it. So there used to be an old adage, which I'm saying old adage because publish or perish is something we always talk about. This is for the scientific community. You have to publish your work. Otherwise, you don't exist in the scientific community. You just become minuscule, right? Now, that thing has slowly changed now. We're talking about impact or perish. So what I talk now and what impact it has on you guys, that's going to change the way how you think about it. I'm a first-year medical student. It doesn't matter. There are first-year medical students starting a project straight away because they know what to do or somebody is guiding them what to do. So that's how things have changed now. Well, I know the talk is focused on medical students. This is for global medical student community, just not for India. It's not for UK. It's for every part of the world, because I think it's absolutely important to know what these journals actually talk about, how much weightage they carry about, and all this stuff. So let's see. I think this is an important article which was published in BMJ, just to say how do you read a scientific paper. There's a beautiful explanation, methodology, what you're looking for, because first of all, you need to read articles to know what they're talking about before that idea comes to your mind. And subsequently, you think about things laterally. And it just, it's transformed into newer ideas. I think that's more important. So yes, definitely, I recommend that you read this specific article. So now this is the 2018 statistics about the number of scientific papers published. So we're not too bad. You can see that, for the population, the number of medical school, we just spoke about the number of medical students coming out. So if I say India, well, I'm sure there are about 500,000 medical students that graduate every year. So you can talk about what your priorities are. Of course, we have trained medical students who to be safe, who have their basic knowledge to treat a disease. And then they take their career to the next level of post-graduation. So again, we are bounded by, the competition, the numbers and everything. It's interestingly, yes, it's entrance exam. When I was there, yes, I did sit the postgraduate entrance exam, and I wasn't clever enough to get into the top of the cream of, the toppers, what we call, to enter the system. But anyways, I'm here now, and there's always a reason for what happens in our lives. So, well, the thing is, from 2018 to 2020. Sorry.
Sorry for that, sir. Sorry for that. It was an interruption from one of our participants. I'm sorry for that.
It's always good to know that people are not sleeping. We are talking, so that's fine. I think we are in a new age world now. We are doing virtual, sort of lectures. An old-fashioned school, who is going to be dozing off after the lunch session. You just wake them up and say, "What did I teach you now?" But that's not happening anymore. Yes, coming back to the topic. So yes, we saw about how do you read an article. So there is evidence to say how you actually look into, you look at an article, just dissect it out, look at the abstract, see what's the title and what you conclude or what they have concluded, which is all good. So then you can say, well, I'm not actually good at writing. I am not good at writing is a very, very good thing. Well, obviously we have passed our secondary schools. We have written essays. We have written lots of things. So it's not going to be difficult for you to write. But I think the common problem, what I encountered, is because my mother tongue is Tamil, and I'm trying to write something in English. So what happens then is my ideas, what is there in my mind in my mother tongue, gets translated into English. So I had a lot of difficulty. So with whatever articles I've published, it's mostly, there's a lot of hard work going into see how I could just learn the language properly and delivering it more precisely. So when it comes to writing up articles should be, you can't have emotions when you're writing. You just have to call a spade a spade. You have to get your ideas very organized. It has to be politically right, because you can't offend people around the world. who can take things in whatever way they like. Now we are a very gullible society, aren't we? We just believe what is passed on to us because it comes from X, Y, Z. Then that's it. It's taken for granted, and that's etched in stone. But the point, what I want to say is, if I can write article, you can write too, and it's never too late or never too early. Now, just a bit about H-index and ITIN index. So I just mentioned, would this become a future passport for researchers and doctors? So actually, H-index, for medical students, H-index and Hirsch index, it's based on scientific, what your article's impact is about and how many people do cite your articles and all this stuff. So that's H-index. Now that's again sort of very widely used across the globe. To be a professor, you need to have a H-index of at least more than 30. Now, what are we talking about here? So you're talking about your work, which is a PhD, which gets published it's a big journal, and your articles get read by so many other scientists across the globe, and they feel that there is something very important in the article, and they cite your article. So essentially, what happens is the work that you produced gets cited by so many people, so you get a better H-index, right? Now, I am not an academic neurosurgeon, by the way. I should have disclosed it before. I'm a non-academic clinician, so I'm a non-academic neurosurgeon. So I have more commitment towards clinical neurosurgery. So writing has to be in the time what I get and what I love to do, apart from other things. But anyway, that's H-index. The I-index is created by the search engine, obviously, Google Scholar. So this is about, again, the number of articles that you've written, get cited, and eventually your number grows, right? So there is always a discrepancy in the number of, the numbers, what you get from ITIN and H-index. But I wouldn't be very surprised if in the future, well, we are doctors, we don't need to have H and I indices. But there will be a time where, you probably have to prove that you're better. Well, entrance exam is one, competitive exams to screen people who are very, very good at what we believe that they know the subject. And then you move them to the next stage. Then you get into post-graduation and you just graduate, and then you go on and practice in the community. Well, it is an important thing that I want you to think about now, because, when I asked for a CV, yes, I landed here with a one-page CV with nothing in it more than apart from the medals, what you mentioned before. But as time passed by, you're being judged by the scientific community, by the number of research work that you do. And it's very difficult because there is a lot of practicalities involved in it. And I can imagine if the priority is not about being a professor in an academic institute, you would just be bothered about focusing on your clinical work, progressing your technical skills, and learning more art, surgery. I'm just focused on surgery, but it applies to everything. It applies for all specialties, right? So it's something which I want you to think about. There is a lot of pros and cons. As I said, there are two sides to the coin. So you have to be really careful about looking at ITIN index to say, wow, that's amazing. I could cite my own article and get more numbers, but that's not right, is it? Well, so I thought this is very important to say, from impact factor to Nobel Prize, yeah? So, yes, you can win a Nobel Prize, you could just win the Oscars, you could just win the Olympic gold medal, but you just have to be happy from inside here before it goes to the world, universe, and then it comes back to you as a recognition for what you've done. Now look at this one. So this is written and posted by this person, Tanja Puyan. She's very interestingly mentions that the Krebs cycle, which was described by Hans Krebs, was rejected by the topmost journal, Nature, in 1937. And then he resubmits this article about Krebs cycles, everyone knows about it, to Enzymologia. It's another journal where they published it in 2 months. And then another Nobel laureate, just Virginijus Sicknis from Vilnius University in Lithuania, he's the one who discovered CRISPR gene, where all the, it's all about the breaking science. What he published was initially refused and rejected by the top journal Cell. Then it goes on to win the Nobel Prize subsequently, and recognition in the form of Kavli Prize, I'm sorry. So another Nobel laureate, Randy Sheckman, he declared that he's going to boycott all the prestigious journals because he felt that they were damaging science. And he's not the only top tier scientist who acknowledges this, but a lot of people do agree. But I want this healthy debate to go on, because I don't want the medical students to get biased by what is out there. So just always think about and know both sides of the coin, okay? Well, what type of research do we have? So let's come on to the evidence, what we have. We practice evidence-based medicine, right? We don't take anything, just like that, but there are levels of evidence. So what we're talking about is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 levels of evidence, and the foundational evidence, which is your ideas, your speculation, and then comes the seniority and your experience in the field of medicine, as Dr. Finney mentioned about organophosphate poisoning. We don't see that in the Western world very often, more often in the place where you get farmers getting easy access to the organophosphates for using it as pesticides, right? So that personal observation becomes more of an expert opinion. From level 5, it gets to level 4, where you get 2 or 3 cases together and it gets published as case series. And then it moves on slowly up the ladder to what we call the randomized control trial. So we are definitely not going to talk about the pandemic that's going on. We're not going to talk about the vaccine here, but we all know the rationale behind how these vaccines get sort of authorized and sort of get stamped to say, but this is okay for human consumption. So that's the level of evidence. Now, as a medical student, what can I do? Well, I know that you probably maybe in dermatology, psychiatry, obs and gynae, whatever specialty you are, but just my sincere advice is just to understand the basics of what specialty you're posted in at this point in time. Then you probably have lots of questions in mind. So we have moved on, so from dedicated lectures, we have now gone to more, the students are not like spoon-fed anymore. Now you got access to internet, so you can find whatever you want. You have access to textbooks online. So yeah, there's a lot of resources available now. I still remember we didn't have our mobile phone when I finished my medicine. So 2001, 2002, I was so excited to see this massive little brick that was given to me. I was like fascinated by the mobile phones now. Things have changed, right? So a little word about the word audit. I know it's sort of very prevalent terminology. Now it's getting more and more practically used everywhere. So audit is something where you are practicing in a world where you compare it to a standard and you say how much you can improve from that, what we call benchmark. And then you change your practice and then you close the loop. So audit is a cycle. Audit is very important because it's so easy when you say you find a suitable topic to do an audit, then that audit can be potentially presented and published. Bang on, that goes in your CV, that your CV builds up. So I look after what we call the foundation junior doctors in the neurosurgical training. So I sit down with each and every one of them, maybe a few who are listening to it today too. So, but I just go through their CV. So, how do I make one? Well, you just make your CV, see what you're good at and put things up there. And if I ask you what you want to be in the future, the question is, I'm not sure because medicine is so vast. But it's okay not to know what you want to do. But if you don't have the passion to seek what you want to do, you really won't be there anywhere. So you'll be finishing a medicine. Of course, you'd get a top class score. And then you, by default, you just go into post-graduation and eventually you won't know what you're going to do. Well, I would say, I think you should all start writing in the sense like, write your ideas. When you're in your clinics, just go home. What we used to do is just sit down in a small notebook, write on what case we saw that day. And that's there in my mind. I still remember. I'm not exaggerating. I'm not trying to boast, but that's true. What I wrote, what I remembered. I'm just fascinated by a neuroanatomy lecture given by an 80-year-old emeritus professor from America who came to Oxford, who just made all the 200 audience or participants stand up and pronounce words like, Broca's area. You talk about brain anatomy, neuroanatomy. Yes, he wanted us to pronounce those words. So there is a reason why in those days where people read aloud, because when you read aloud, your brain registers it better. These are building blocks. These are basics. And I'm not talking about, there's nothing to do with research, but the building blocks has to be really strong, right? Okay, let's move on. Yes, I did mention about self-directed learning. So you get motivated, you get inspired by your professor, by your teacher. And you just go home and read about it, and you just say, well, that's very interesting. I've never come across this before. And then you say, well, then you just dwell more into it. Now, the situation currently, we are connected around the world with webinars, right? So make use of the webinars. All the international meetings puts up there, the top quality speakers or anybody who's presenting, everything is online now. So you can actually click onto those and you can actually read the gist or even just know the gist of what it is there. You come up with your idea. Yes, of course, it's going to change the world, but it could take a while, right? So don't underestimate. When you say medical student, you're writing different things and, well, that's how it builds up. This is a very important article. Well, it's more than an article. It's not an article. Apologies. It's a blog by this Dr. Richard Smith. So Richard Smith was an editor in BMJ for nearly for a while, and he retired in 2004. So he wrote this interesting blog, which is very, very interesting because he talks about we have about nearly 40,000 journals. Can you believe it or not? He says 20 to 30,000. I'm sure there are more. There are more than 40,000 medical journals there. So that is a massive number. So obviously you have to write something. Now, what he's talking about is, so let me show you so what he concludes from this blog is medical journals are now a poor way to publish science, but they can perform well with the function traditionally associated with mass medias in terms of campaigning, investigating, setting an agenda, and leading a specific, research. But he predicts that the science will be published in a different way, but only few journals in the future will actually function to do their job as real journals. But that's very sad to see that. It's just an opinion, of course, as I said before, it's an opinion. But he also goes to say that there is a 30% margin of profit involved in publishing your article. So he clearly says, I'm sitting here, I get money for oil, which I've not dug from the sea. I've not refined it. I have not marketed it, but the money just comes to me. So this is what is happening, in scientific publishing world, where there is a 30% margin. So if you go back to this blog, I wrote something back, to say, this is very deeply concerning because people in third world countries, people who really can't afford to pay for a journal to get your work published, right? It is a major setback. But then what happens is, yes, I'm not here working for any specific organization here, but ResearchGate, yeah. So we all know ResearchGate. So they accept, articles, and you can just log in there and you can say that I'm from this part of the world and I published this, and this is my idea. So you don't have to pay for that, right? So people who cannot submit their article, which are ISI, well, it's not Indian Standard Institute, it's International Scientific Information, gathering database, which actually helps you to recognize a specific journal. So you need to pay for it. So most of the top journals, do not charge any money for your publication, but there are now more what we call open access. Well, I want my article to be read by everybody, so it should be freely available. But then you can say, well, I'm from some part of the world where I don't have library, where I can just get in, or even have an e-access to a journal. So my work is not getting read. So what do I do then? Well, that's something which we need to think about. So obviously, you are surrounded by, people who are relatively knowledgeable people around in whatever caliber they are, being a fourth year medical student or being an intern, postgraduate, professor, assistant professor, whatever. So, there are a lot of help around you, but we don't ask for it. So we don't seek the answer what we need. So what can you do as a medical student? Well, I did speak about, going and presenting what you want in international meetings. We can start with something as simple as, writing a letter to the editor, right? So I always thought writing a case report is easy. Anybody can do it. You can just write your opinion. But case report is, as we know, it's the lowest level of evidence. But then letter, again, it's your own opinion. So they are lowest level of evidence available. But then if your idea is so unique, then you're going to inspire another team. Then that's going to lead to another one. And eventually you'll find a randomized controlled trial that's being done based on what you actually thought about several years later. So review articles, yes, it's you can pick any topic and then you can just go on the what we call medical database, PubMed, Medlar. There's so many Cochrane database, so you can go on a lot of these databases and you can just keep looking at things, what is new and what are things that have changed, and you can come up with your conclusion. So meta-analysis and on, and there are a lot of softwares available now. We didn't have that before. EndNote, Mendeley, or Studio. These are different software that will help you to just collate your information, just make it more and more refined, and then you analyze it, and that's your paper. You don't have to go and meet patients. You can just read, published articles, and you can just do a meta-analysis, which is good. Technical notes, yes, and then comes a randomized control trial. So you need to know that. You need to know that these are the things. This is your path for research, and this is what it all entails. Now, yes, statistics. Tell me about it. I still don't understand it. That's the truth. We have so much of advancement. There's an SPSS software. There's a lot of, so don't be deterred by the idea of statistics and you being involved in research, because there are statisticians in your institute who can actually help you, and you need to acknowledge them, and that's absolutely important. So it's not something which you really need to worry about, but something you need to think about to say, well, you know what, this is not going to stop me from my ideas getting delivered. You just come up with an idea, and that's what it is. So where do I start? Well, I did say that before. Yes, you pester your professors, lecturers, teachers, seniors. I want you to think beyond your exam, what you're set to pass. I want you to think beyond, because the reason I'm saying this is because you have to keep your mind completely open, and you need to be absolutely, what should I have, lateral thinking. It's something which I developed. I'll tell you how I developed. That's when all the extracurricular and co-curricular activities come into picture. So find a way, ask questions, ask them to just help you. And if they don't know, they will go find out answers for you. We're not like born researchers, we're not born leaders. We eventually learn to be one. So when you learn the idea, then you just disseminate the idea to the rest of the team or to the other students. You're constantly looking for inspiration from people around. Now, I have to thank my current trainees now in Edinburgh for coming up with this. I know this is more into neurosurgery. We have rolled out sort of a survey among neurosurgical trainees in the UK and Irish Republic to see, do they have enough support as mentors to come and help you? We came up with something very interesting. Of course, thanks Marco for that, promoting Padawans, yes, the Star Wars and Jedi and all this stuff. But, eventually, what we have here is an allocated educational supervisor. So I would be in charge of, say, about 5 or 10 trainees. So I can imagine, say you are in a medical school, you are in charge of a specific team. There are about hundreds of students. You have to divide that to make sure that you have some sort of supervision for a group of team. I'm sure it is happening around the world. But interestingly, what we found in neurosurgery is a lot of trainees thought that there was no mentorship. There was no, what we call, the current training scheme is underserving the trainees. So there are suggestions that we come up. There's unpublished data, but eventually it gets published. This is a UK-wide audit. It was done for the first time. And the rationale behind this is always thinking about the well-being of the trainees, thinking about mindfulness, how they can be mindful to achieve what they want in life, what they want in their life. So for a mentor, for a teacher, someone has to be affable, available, and able. So you need to have those three A's to deliver what you really want to deliver to your trainees as a teacher. So it's absolutely vital. I'm happy to share this once it gets published, but that's a different talk in total. Now, I'm just going to show you, again, this is all pertaining to neurosurgery. These are letters written to one of the top journals, well, we call it High Impact Factor, written by close friends, colleagues, junior trainees, medical students, right? So this one, how soon I can fly after neurosurgery, after having an operation. But nobody has written about it. This was like 2017. I know I'm talking about my specialty. It's still very young specialty. But yes, strange topics. I never talk about, but people, when you're consenting patients for spinal operations, you have to talk about these. That topic came up by one of the junior trainees. I was commendable. It just went straight to the for publication neurosurgery. Balance groups. This was recent, and thanks Akash for that. So when you are very open-minded, so you are in psychiatry, balance group is a part of psychiatry training, by the way, where they sit down and talk to the trainees. The senior trainee sit down with the junior trainee to say, well, these are my difficulties I encountered seeing or treating this patient. And then the junior trainee learns from it. So this is called balance group. So I was thinking, why can't we just bring balance groups to neurosurgery? Well, is it possible? Well, they are different specialties, but the concept itself was quite novel. It went straight again for publication. Mindfulness. So this is another topic I'm sure Dr. Finney and Dr. Jasuran will invite me to talk about it at a different stage. The whole focus is in the world is, yes, with pandemic, we have so much of burnout, stress. I keep saying this because this is my first lecture for all my trainees when they come to neurosurgery, mindfulness and neurosurgical training. Well, I cannot make people get a black belt in karate in one day. I cannot make a trainee to become a good doctor if they're not calm, if they're not composed, if they're not able to control their mind. You can't be, what I call a better person, right? You can be a successful doctor, but you're going to get stressed, and you're talking about myocardial infarction happening in 30-year-olds. This never happened to me in the past, but now, yes, you're too stressed. So much information overload. And that explains why our attention span is less than 9 seconds, because we have too much in front of us. We can't really decide. And our mind just gets, you get a brain freeze from it. But anyway, so this is something which I found it interesting, because you look at this one. These are the most Nobel Prize winning papers in physics. My father's a physicist, professor retired. He did inspire me to take medicine. That's another story. But I was just looking at it. Look at that. Physical review letters are the top in getting Nobel Prize. I know, in talking from medical student to Nobel Prize, everything has to start from somewhere, right? I cannot say don't dream about Nobel Prize, because it's far beyond your reach. And who is there? Who am I to talk about you having a capacity to think about Nobel Prize? But you need to talk about it. We need to think about it. You need to come up with some ideas that's going to change the world. But not everybody is going to dream that, but you need to always keep that in mind. There you go, Nature, Science, Astrophysical Journal. So the number of papers, it's actually letters that gets published. So don't underestimate letters and case reports, even though they have, probably have lowest level of evidence. So at this, I think in this juncture, I would say that in the UK, the selection for getting into a specialty is not based on an entrance exam, but based on various aspects that you have in your CV, including your papers published, including demonstrating that you're a good leader, because eventually you are a leader, you are getting molded to become a leader, and you just have to deliver the leadership quality, and other things like your awards, blah, 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 right? So it's just not about that. Sort of a screening tool will take you to the next stage, what we call face-to-face interview, and then I can make a reasonable, fair judgment whether that boy or girl is okay to do that specialty, whatever they want to do. It's all competitive, of course. Okay, different ways of looking at it. Okay, I know it's this was published in February 2020. Nobel laureates are not hot. It's interesting, because you talk about impact factors. Sorry. So this particular research scientist, Marek Kosmolsky, it was published in Scientometrics. I didn't know that there was a journal like that. It's one of the 40,000 journals, of course, but a good impact one. And the achievements of all 97 Nobel laureates in chemistry, economy, medicine, and physics for a 10-year period was analyzed. And he just beautifully looked at how many Nobel laureates publication eventually were cited by so many, so comparing it to the top journal, top scientists around the world. It's an interesting read. I would recommend that you just read this, because I don't want to talk about it, but it's an interesting topic, because this is just sort of trying to look beyond what we normally talk about. So he just goes to say, well, there are 17 Nobel laureates, where among the 6,000 highly cited researchers, 4 recent Nobel laureates were in the top 6,000 scientists in terms of what we call hot papers. It's interesting, only 2 recent Nobel laureates were in the top 6,000 scientists in terms of highly cited, papers. So it's not always about, what you're getting, what you're delivering, but it's just about the quality that comes out as well. Yeah, that's very important. So based on that, right, I'm talking to students, talking to trainees. In the last 2 months, there absolutely no exaggeration. Last 2 months, these are the topics that's been written, submitted to various neurosurgical journals. I'm a sportsman. Well, what can I bring? How can sports be used in neurosurgery? Just not neurosurgery. You know, how how can I compare Mo Farah to neurosurgery? Well, the amount of mindfulness and the amount of mind-focused training, what has been involved for this particular person to be on the top, what we are doing in every surgical specialty, every medical specialty. Well, I'm not trying to be biased about clinicians and non-clinical specialties, pharmacology, physiology, pathology. Well, as my senior always said, if you want to be a good surgeon, you need to know anatomy, pathology, physiology. Any person can be trained to do surgery, including a monkey, which is true now. Robotics coming in now. So your basics, right? And if you keep your mind open, yeah, music and neurosurgery, we'll talk about it. Operative notes, we all handwrite it, we have written it, we record what we are doing in terms of operation and put it in the records, medical records. In the West, in the US, most of the surgical centers do record their operations, and they put it, these are for the future. How do you conquer fear when you're in an emergency situation? Well, this topic was by one of our recent junior trainees. And these topics just came up just because I was talking about it and got materialized in a matter of few weeks. That's submitted to top journals. And this absolutely, I just got that picture there. It's all about us planting that seed, right? Now, so what now? We have talked about reading. We have talked about how to write. PDP is personal development plan, right? This is something which we often talk about. PDP is not a fancy terminology, but I want the medical students to understand PDP is not something like, I have it at the end of 2 years, this is what I want to achieve. Always have a short-term goal, okay? So have a short-term plan and try to see if you can achieve it. Always have PDP, which will make you achieve the short-term goal. It's very important. There are a lot of courses, online courses. Try to have a long-term goal if you can, and try to just persevere, because there are a lot of times we have submitted articles to top journals, they get rejected, and we keep submitting to different journals until it gets published, right? So that's perseverance. And in medical school, you focus and focus, and you just keep going. And and just understand that in medical school, it's not all about your intelligence. It's all about your amount of hard work. And I'm absolutely certain you guys have come and become medical students just by hard work and a lot of effort. So that's a major achievement by itself, but that shouldn't stop there. I've just mentioned visualize, yeah? So I'll talk about it again. Have your extracurricular activities and try to nurture it. And it's absolutely vital, because I was just reading this article yesterday about in China, they compared non-academic neurosurgeons. Sorry, I'm going back to neurosurgery because I need to know about my specialty. Non-academic neurosurgeons compared to academic neurosurgeons. The non-academic neurosurgeons are less stressed. The number of divorce rates are less. The money they get is probably not better, but the academic neurosurgeons have more productivity. Most of them stay single. But it's an interesting article. You just go on PubMed and look it up. And it's so interesting to know. I want to be a person, I want to be holistic. And you don't become holistic by yourself. You just seek what makes you happy. Medicine is one form of delivering your passion, helping others, right? Well, this applies to nursing specialty. This applies to whatever you.
Dr. Kali Perumal, you accidentally muted yourself. Can you just unmute, please? Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
I'm coming to the end of this presentation. So it's not the numbers that matter, but it's just a quality, right? If you think that I'm a medical student, what am I going to change? But you can change, because if you read a lot of novels, you have your mind is, stories, articles, keep reading. So I would say probably the easiest thing for you to do is just get abstracts of articles from different journals, just read it, just find out what is being told, because subconsciously, that goes in your mind. And I say, I got more eureka moments when I have a shower for 5 minutes in the morning. I just walk out of the shower and say, well, why did I not think about this before? And I'm sure my trainees will say, well, you texted me saying that's very odd to think about that way, but actually nobody has thought about it. So that's how I want you to come up with ideas. Your ideas should be recognized. Okay. There's a lot of plagiarism. There's a lot of bias, but don't worry about any of things. Don't worry about any of these things, but just have your mind very clear. Absolutely no compromise on history taking and examination. I would just emphasize it. Absolutely. We are not looking at a scan and treating a patient. We have to absolutely learn your basics from the ward and clinical teaching. There is no compromise for that. So let me see. Yes, so I'm going to recommend these two books for all the students. These two books changed my life significantly. I'm not an avid reader. I used to read a lot of storybooks when I was young, and I'm not a nerd. But I'm very focused on what I want to know. I just seek what I want to know. So creative visualization is something which had helped me. So I strongly recommend you go and get this book, or you just access it and just learn what it's all about. You could see what you want to be in the future. And that's one thing. The next book is this autobiography of a yogi. Again, I'm very mindful of the fact that this is not a religious platform, but this is more spiritual, right? So I want you to go beyond the realm and just think more about yourself and come up with imbibing those positive ideas that is available. So needless to say, Steve Jobs gave a small little wooden box to the people who came for the for the ceremony after he passed, and the wooden box had this book inside, because when he had this pancreatic cancer, I think he was very influenced and very moved by the spiritual field of the current, what we call yogic atmosphere existing in the Western world. It all came from where you guys are sitting there, right? So these two books, yeah, please do read it, and it did change my life. Now, I'm going to stop there and just say, more than welcome to contact me. That's my email. I got a YouTube channel, of course, yes. We're talking about extracurricular, co-curricular activities. I keep singing because singing is something which has made me calm. And just go and click on the link, go and listen to the songs, put your comments on, subscribe if you can, but that'd be great. All my paintings, I'm an artist. So that's something which I learned when I was in my school days. So that's one of my poor nature in what I had in my mind. So yeah, there are a few paintings on the social media. I'm not great at social media, but please do go and just see what is there out. And please do nurture the talent what you had. Just because you moved into medicine or XYZ specialty, I don't have time. My family life is so busy, but you need to find time. You need to keep yourself fit. So I'm going to conclude saying a big thank you. Well, I'm 40 now, and I managed to play a tournament, and that's it. So there's nothing can stop you. It's all up to you and in your mind to keep yourself fit physically and in your mind. So I'm going to say a big thank you. Thank you slide is not enough, because this could go on for hours together. So first of all, I would like to absolutely pass my gratitude to my father, who refused to give me money to join engineering when it was so difficult for me to join medicine, because, as I said, I was not bright. I was 4,000 in my rank when I wrote the entrance exam. I stood nowhere. So he said, well, I'm not going to pay the fees for you because your grandfather had Parkinson's disease and you need to be a neurosurgeon. That's what you said when you were small. I said, neurosurgery, Parkinson's disease? It was 1985. I think that's the time when actually deep brain stimulation came into picture. And he didn't know that. He just wanted me to be one. And well, there I am. I'm here now. So gratitude to him. My mom passed away when I was 7 from a road traffic accident. So all the artistic genes came from her. I'm very, very grateful to my family, my 2 lovely children, my wife Savita. She keeps saying that I have a lot of narcissistic trait. Actually, it's actually narcissism. You have to admire yourself. You can't love others if you don't love yourself. So But there you go, and that's it. And all my teachers in JIPMER, my professors, Professor Ananthakrishnan, Professor Srinivasan, I did make a mimicry out of it when I in the initial slide, if you had noticed. So I know you're watching. Thank you. And all the 10 neurosurgical centers, all my colleagues, trainees, I'm ever so grateful. And thank you for this opportunity, Dr. Finney and Dr. Jasuran. Thank you. I'm happy to take questions. I think probably I've spoken more than what I intended to, but apologies for overdoing it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kali Perumal, for that talk. Really, you opened the minds of many of us and our students to think about research. So I think I want to leave the floor open to our students. If anybody wants to ask any questions, you could either put it up in the chat box, or if you can raise your hand, maybe you can ask the question directly. I don't see any questions in the chat box. So can I set the ball rolling, Dr. Kali Perumal?
Yes. So
you mentioned about mentorship for a career, and you talked about the 3 A's. Would you mind to explain that a little bit more? I think we missed it while you were speaking. I think I missed that part.
So you have to be available. So I cannot say I finished my work at 5 o'clock, I'm done, right? We have the social, everything's changed because of the pandemic. So we have created our own social media group. I have my trainees in that group, and I say, well, do this, talk about this idea. But I'm sure they will be surprised. Why am I texting at 10 o'clock in the nighttime? I know that that's not a proper formal messaging. It goes into the system. Whenever they see it, I just want to know that a trainer should be available all the time. You should be affable. You need to be friendly enough to come in. I cannot go and ask my professor a question because he's too strict, right? Affable. Ability. Yes, you need to be able to do things. You need to set a role model for your trainees. Medical students, they all look up to your trainees. I remember still my anatomy professor demonstrating and talking about what is the purpose of having, the platysma, the neck muscle. Why should the horses do have a developed platysma, and that's why they're able to, shrink the muscles so that the insect doesn't stick in the neck of the horse. This was in 1996. I remember it. It was not prepared. I'm just saying because that's how you get inspired, right? That A's, you can make it multiple A's, but the 3 A's that you need to be a good mentor is availability, affability, and ability. Now, I think there are, and please feel free to ask questions. People, yeah, okay, that's you, fine. Not many people, there are about 36 here. If you have any questions, please do let me know, and I'm absolutely delighted to answer those questions for you if you have any.
May I request Dari Darwin to just speak out her mind? Dari? Okay. Are there any questions, friends?
Not many, I guess.
May I request Gauri Ratish to speak up? Gauri?
You don't have to be scared.
Yeah. Okay. I think while Gauri gets ready with the question, AJ has a question. I don't know. Can you just come in, please, AJ? I don't know your full name. You want to ask? Yeah. You can just introduce yourself, please, quickly, and ask a question.
Yeah, sure. My name is AJ. I'm studying at the University of St. Andrews, just a second-year medical student. Mm-hmm. And my question for you, doctor, is how did you know neurosurgery was for you? And then exactly what's the difference between research and then clinical neuroscience?
Yeah. Thank you for joining from St. Andrews. St. Andrews, for the rest of you, yes, it's very close to Scotland, a very beautiful part of Scotland. So AJ, a fabulous question. Now, The first part of the question, how did I know that I want to be a neurosurgeon? Yes. So if you did listen to the end of the meeting, I did mention about my father who wanted me to be a doctor. Well, my mom wanted me to be a doctor. But if anybody in India in those days, if they say you don't want to be a doctor or engineer, you don't fit in the society. Well, that's what it was. But I would say it's more of art and art. So you go back on Insta. I'm not a mega Insta fan, but if you just go and look at some paintings, it really took me 16 to 18 hours. So I really have to sit down on the floor with a 10 rupees handmade paper with a 10 rupees paint, and that was all was available to me then. I was inspired by my friend who drew a picture of Mona Lisa. I was thinking, how can he make it? Why can't I make it? So there was a lot of art and the passion to be a doctor, number one. Neurosurgery, interesting because I think if my batchmates will be listening to this. In the first day in my medical school, the dean, the director, everyone sat down in the medical school and asked, like, what do you want to be? And everyone said, I want to go to America. And those people who said that they want to be, they are there. They've done their MLEs and they're doing very well. So it came to me, I said, I want to be a neurosurgeon. And people did have a little subtle laugh and say, well, to be a neurosurgeon. I always wanted to be one because I may sound very, very weird, but I wanted to be what I wanted to be, which was passed on from it's been told that I should be a doctor. Then I thought I should become a surgeon. I should be a surgeon. I should be an artist, and I should be a neurosurgeon. So everything was revolving around it. So I can't give a better answer for that. So now, going to the second part of the question, as a consultant, as a lecturer, also as a professor, you are supposed to deliver, teaching in forms of research, right? How do I know? As I said, I'm a non-academic, right? My impact factor is hardly anything compared to my academic neurosurgical colleague who is way higher above me. But it sort of, that's not intimidating me. But what I'm trying to imply to you, AJ, is research, the concept of research should be there at your stage when you're a second year medical student, because once you understand the principles, as you grow older, when you when you graduate, the whole concept becomes very easy for you to understand. Well, I am going to be whatever, a pathologist, but I still am going to write papers because I came up with a new technique to look at things, right? So research it's not something you really have to struggle hard. And I started saying that I'm going to break the aura that surrounds the word research. If you gently shake it and look at what actual research is, it's not rocket science. It's just coming up with your ideas. But to come up with an idea, you need to know what the background is. So you need to do your homework before you do that. So that was the reason why, I always had a passion to coming up with new ideas. I didn't know how to write. I sat down. Yes, my professor, well, my tutor, Kishore Chaudhary said, well, you have nothing in your CV to become a neurosurgeon, but you're very hell-bent that you want to be a neurosurgeon. So you need to have a publication. It was 2007. My first article was a letter to the editor. It got published within 2 months. I was like jumping of joy, like, oh, that's fascinating. How did my article get published? That was just a starting point for me. Nothing is going to stop me. Yeah. Sorry, did I answer the question? Sorry. I know I kept talking and talking. AJ?
Sorry, yeah. Yes, you did. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Good luck.
I can see Prabhakar has raised his hand. Prabhakar Patil, can you kindly unmute and ask this question?
Yes, sir. Good evening, sir.
Hi, good evening.
Sir, myself, Dr. Prabhakar Patil. I'm a professor in Department of Pharmacology in one of the medical college in Karnataka. So actually, our students, they get a chance to do this research as a short-term studentship by ICMR, Indian Council of Medical Research.
Yes.
So when I started as an assistant professor, I was getting many students for this research, means STS. Nowadays, students, they lost their interest in doing such things. So can you tell some methods, tips to motivate our students for taking such research? Can you tell some methods?
Sure. So I was very aware of ICMR projects when I was in medical school. And as Dr. Finney said, it's either one of those two really brilliant, bright boys or girls who went and did the ICMR project and they got it granted. Now, One of my colleagues and close friends, who is a neurosurgeon, Professor Venkatesh Madhugiri, was giving a talk to the Jipmerites. Don't rely just on ICMR, because ICMR is one of the portals. I haven't had an opportunity to collaborate with ICMR, but what I know is, if you say you're a professor of pharmacology, there are new drugs coming up, well, ask them to just give them a topic and say, well, this is what I want you to do. Look it up in the literature, come back to me with 2 or 3 pages of your write-up. So the reason why you're talking about ICMR is you want recognition for a project that's being done at a medical student level. But I'm giving recognition in the form of giving them a publication from what they have done. So that is the biggest form of recognition for any medical student or for any scientist. So they don't have to be always relying on ICMR. Again, if anybody's listening to this from another part of the world, you don't have to seek your governmental support to come up with your ideas. So if anyone asks you, Professor of Pharmacology, say, I want a project, just say, well, I have an idea. It's up to you. You work very hard. You just come back after a couple of weeks and come back and speak to me about this. Because once you are open to understand the methodology is not always one part. Actually, the portal is multiple. And then they could get inspired by what you're going to say. And you show them how to do a publication by just collating your experience and putting everything together. And that's their biggest recognition. And that starts there, and it will never stop, I promise.
That is true, sir. But actually, this ICMR, actually, in the beginning, they give how to do the things in stepwise manner. So it will be very easy for the student to take their first few researches. So like that, can you tell some other platforms where they can be engaged with the research, means with the help of teachers like us?
Sure. So I think probably an academic scientist may be a right person to answer the question, but I'm talking as a clinician, right? So I was just touching base upon the different forms of research. Research is not always getting the randomized control trial. It's not always about the retrospective series. It could be anything as simple as coming up with a new idea. And you don't have to call it research. If you want to call it research, that's fine. But just taking the stigma attached to research, like research is always like very rigid. I cannot do this because I don't hate an approval. Of course, you need ethical approval if you're doing anything related with patients. And I just want to emphasize your ethics committee or whatever. If you don't have one, you need to have one. And as we all took Hippocratic oath, and we know that what is ethical and what's not ethical. So if you're asking about different platforms, I'm not entirely sure, because we're talking about non-clinical specialty and clinical specialties, but it's entirely up to to you to say you collaborate with different universities. And what I'm trying to say again here is, I'm not trying to give a political answer. I'm trying to say, you collaborate with me. I think this medicine is going to work, and I collaborate with Dr. Finney. He's an endocrinologist. Hang on a minute. There's somebody else who says, well, the physiotherapist feels that if you take this medicine, you're going to have multiple falls. But hang on a minute, I will get you on board. So it's collaborating. So as medical students, and I say 50,000 medical students are there in India every year graduating, why don't you guys have a decent group and discuss your ideas? And we need to provide them that sort of a platform to say, it is okay to come up with your own ideas, and you talk to your professor about it. Don't have any fear in saying that you got an idea. Is it possible to do this? And you should support it. I'm not saying you and all as teachers, we need to support it. So I don't have a definite answer for you, Professor, but I think the way how I looked at it, I wish someone sat down with me to say, don't worry, research is not rocket science. It's simple. Write a letter to the editor, or write a case report, write a case series, and then we look into.
So, sir, why I ask this, because whenever I guided some projects, whenever, so I was having some idea. I was having some research question, and I gave it to the students. And on that they worked, sir. They were not having their own research questions.
I see. Okay.
So at the level of UG students, actually you told many methods, but then also some very good thing which we can tell them. Can you tell such things which we can tell them in daily classes? We can tell them, we can motivate them. So, something like that I want, sir.
Okay. Motivating them. So I'm just trying to rethink your question. So Now, remember, there are so many students who come and go every year. Pharmacology is per year. Now, there are genuinely interested students because they understood what the fruit is going to be at the end of their 6 months. You need to pass your exams, by the way, right? You can't
Right.
fail. You can't fail
Yeah.
pharmacology and say I got 2 papers in Nature published.
Yes, sir.
That's not a
Yes.
problem. So, so what I'm saying is, going back again, the basic curriculum, what you are sort of inculcating in those students about pharmacology is absolutely essential. But again, the students' motivation, what reward do they have to say, well, now I passed pharmacology, professor. By the way, goodbye. Thanks for the project. I'm moving on to surgery now, and that's it.
Why
They
we
felt
were taking this STS project was they were getting 10,000 rupees the scholarship, sir. That was the main aim.
I
Means
see. I see. I
professor
didn't
will
know
help
that.
for whole this project. We were working together, but students were having that main idea that they will get something from that project.
Fine.
Apart from that, they may get some help in the examination. That type of mentality they are having.
Yeah.
So
No, I
we
understand.
many times we don't know how to overcome that. That was the thing. But I think, okay, sir, no problem.
No, no, please be in touch with me. I didn't give the email just for sake
Right,
of
right.
giving. I want you to
Yeah,
talk to me later. Because I want to learn from you, and I want to know what can be done different. And this can't happen. You yourself sitting on your own, and I can't sit on my own and say
right, sir,
I.
right.
Yeah. So thank you so much for that. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your talk, sir. It was
You're
very nice
welcome.
presentation. Thank you, sir.
You're
Uh,
welcome. Any questions there?
I have a question, sir.
Yes.
Yeah, so basically, my question is, sir, how to develop this critical thinking in medicine?
Is this Samir?
Yes, yes, sir.
Samir, hi.
Samir,
Are
you
you?
can just start your video so that we can see you also. Samir.
Uh, uh,
If you're
uh,
gonna, yes,
okay.
I can see the sun rising there. Samir, that's a good start for you. Right? I can see the horizon. So
Yeah.
how do I develop critical thinking? Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, sir. That's
Yeah,
the
so,
question.
uh, it's a very good thing because when I was a medical student, I had absolutely no critical thinking because I was only focused on going for the competition to win a prize for singing or to play ping pong or just to pass the exam with distinction, right? Critical thinking is something which your brain gets rewired as you go through medical school. Now, how do I develop that? You need to read journals, okay? So, Samir, what I'm saying is, I don't want you to read all the journals every month. Keep it as a burden, but did spend some time to open those journals, if you have a hard copy or electronically, just see what they're trying to say, right? So I'm just giving you just a simple example. My friend and colleague had published recently on a number of articles that have been retracted from journals for whatever reason. Retraction, you understand what that is, right? So I publish it and then I say, hang on a minute, I'm sorry, the data is falsified, I'm retracting it. So he looked at neurosurgical articles that are retracted, but nobody had thought about that. That's a major contribution to research, even though you're not actually doing anything. So how does this critical thinking come? Well, you just read about it. I'm not asking you to be very nerdy to go and open all the journals, but understand what happens in the world every time. Because what happens is they all get into your subconscious mind, by the way. They all go into your subconscious mind and they linger around in different pathways. All you need to do is to connect things together. How do I want to bring neurosurgery? I want to bring music to neurosurgery. I'm a singer, yes, I did say that. How should I benefit my own specialty by that? So we are looking at a second year medical student is looking at how do we get perioperative neurosurgical care by music. That is amazing. And nobody told me to do that. And as I said, I'm a non-academic. I'm not looking for a massive trial. By the way, Professor, if you're still listening, I've not spent, probably for a couple of articles, I've not spent a single penny for any of those articles that have been little number of publications. I've not spent any money for anything. Nobody paid me anything to do that. I don't get extra pay for that, but it's not about the money. It's about your passion. It's about bringing the change, what you really want to. And that's what makes you different. So I'm sure, Samir, in 2 years' time, if you come up with an idea, drop me an email and say, I remember what you said 2 years ago. This is 2023, 2022. Fine. I want to know, how can I materialize this? You don't need to take my name at all, but at least I can tell you how to go about it. It's not, I wish I can do it to a lot of people. I would love to do that. I don't want my email thing to be flooded with a lot of information saying, how do I get into UK? How do I get into neurosurgery? But this is beyond all those things. Samir, you are going to be a consultant in 7 years' time, 10 years' time, right? I want you to have the thought that I never knew what critical thinking was, but I did go and look it up. I read a few articles. I'm happy to share the slides later. Those articles, what I have just put it up here, is by lateral thinking. I never thought I'll get Nobel Prize. How Nobel laureates are hot. Why did that come into research here? I'm just saying how you develop your lateral thinking. So if you're a dancer, go keep dancing, because when you dance, you probably get new ideas. So, keep your mind open. So there's absolutely nothing to say. I cannot give you a guide to say, this is the guide. Okay, you go and that's you. Boom, done. No. So it's a process. It happens over a period of time. But don't take too long just to realize that you've gone past the time. So the papers, the articles are being written by medical students now. That's how it starts. Okay. Welcome. You're muted. That's fine. That's okay.
Oh, thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good luck.
Thank you.
I think we have come to the end of the time. Dr. Jacob, do we have any more time for any questions?
Yeah, if there are any pressing questions from our participants, we can permit for a few more minutes, sir.
I think there's a hands up from Dr. Nityanand Rajamanikam. Yes.
Yes. Can you kindly?
Hello.
Hi,
Good evening. I'm Dr. Nityanand from Tanjavur. I'm a neurosurgeon. I have a question because I'm actually applying for jobs in neurosurgery in NHS. Is the journal which we are publishing has a real impact over our CV, or we can publish our journals in any other journals?
This is an absolutely fantastic question, Dr. Rajamanikam, because that's why I was talking about impact factors and journals. There are journals, there are umpteen number of journals, impact factor. Now, if you go into Google Scholar, but I have absolutely nothing to do with Google Scholar, but if you go on Google Scholar, and Dr. Jasuran said, I got 170 publications. Well, that maybe you included abstracts, blah, 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 all those stuff. It might just build the numbers up. But actual number of articles, probably not more than 70, 75 or something like that. But so what I'm trying to say is it really doesn't matter high impact, low impact, because you need to have a publication in a journal which is peer reviewed. If you got your article published in Nature Science, that's your 10 years PhD, right? You don't need to have 20 publications to say you are the best neurosurgeon with a strong academic background. So I would say any publication is fine, but as long as it's peer reviewed, it's okay. And you put it in your CV saying it's one of those publications, it gets counted. But if there is a competition and there are 3 other people with 1 publication, and I need to make a judgment who is better, of course, I can't make a judgment because I'm flawed there, I'm biased. But I know that your article got published in neurosurgery or in one of the top neurosurgical journals. So I would believe that was peer reviewed in a proper way and it got published. So you get more points than somebody who has got that published in a paid open access journal which has no peer review at all. Does it answer your question? So for the medical students, I think it's a very good question. For medical students, don't worry about impact factor. My friend is editor-in-chief for 3 journals. I'm in the editorial board for a journal. But I'm very grateful for that. That's his brainchild. He started 10 years ago. And I could see the number of articles that have cited our research from that open access journal, free access journal, was phenomenal. So I was asking, did you have, what is the impact factor? I said, we make the impact factor. We create impact over a period of time. I cannot start something now to say, that's my value. But in 10 years' time, it will. So 10 years now. Amazing. His publications are lined up for next 2 years. So that's how it has become. So I wouldn't worry about it. I know it's in India, we don't focus on publication because it's not a mandatory criteria. But you have to tell yourself, how would I know Dr. Rajamanikam is better than anybody else because he has published 10 different articles? And you think that, well, he may be good. Or you may not be. Just because I have so many, sorry. Because I have publication doesn't mean I'm a great surgeon. That doesn't mean. So that's another thing which you all have to think about, right? So thank you.
Thank you.
I have one more question, sir.
Yes.
So basically, there are multiple ways of get a journal indexed, right?
Yep.
Like there's indexing in Google Scholar, there's PubMed indexed. Yeah, so there are multiple ways of getting your journal indexed. So there is Google Scholar, there's PubMed, there is other Cochrane, and there are multiple ways. So, like, does it matter that your journal should be like PubMed indexed itself, or it should be Cochrane indexed itself?
Yeah. So again, Samir, that's a very good question. So I would PubMed. Remember, PubMed only started in 1996, I guess. So January 1996 is when PubMed actually got evolved, and then articles got. So before that, it was mainly search engines, different search engines, or mainly you going to your library and accessing your medical journals, right? That's how it was. So if you ask me, I would prefer you as a medical student to publish your journal, which is PubMed indexed. But then if there is somebody from Indonesia who had spoken about he or she not able to pay money to publish an article, but rather would publish it in a local language, well, there is absolutely no language barrier for publication research. He says that I would rather publish in a journal where I don't have to spend any money. And it doesn't matter whether it gets PubMed indexed or not, but I've done something significant, which is good enough for me. So why do you have to do this publication, Samir? How do I know that you are better? How do I know that you are a better clinician who is going to lead the future of medical science? So you need to know about research. So you can't say that, well, I'm sorry, I'm not good enough to do research. Research is not, which is up there where you really can't reach. It's there in every activity. You come across your professor talking something interesting in the lecture, you go and look it up. You just come up with it. It's all there in your fingertip now. You don't have to worry going to a library when it's COVID or just access to journals anywhere in the world. So you have it in your fingertip. So yeah, I would say answer to the question is it'll be good if you have a PubMed indexed journal, because I know that means it's probably it's a decent journal. So
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
you're welcome.
Yeah, so thank you so much, Dr. Kali Perumal, for your spending your time, sparing your valuable time to share your thoughts and insights. And I think I just want to add one word. My professor at endocrinology at Velo used to share. Sometimes we want to get publish our articles in some foreign or Western journal, but sometimes if it's an article of relevance to an Indian context, maybe better published in an Indian journal where there'll be a wider readership. So you need to think as to whom you're addressing it to. So I remember some of my articles. One of the article I did was on hypokalemic periodic paralysis. We first sent it to the Lancet, and the response from the Lancet was, actually, it is better published in an area where this is a bigger problem rather than in an article where it may not be. So I think you need to also tailor it to the context in which with the topic you're researching. So that's something which I've learned along the way. But thank you so much, Dr. Kali. You brought in a lot of nuggets which we can glean from your talk, and we hope that we will be able to listen to you again at some point. Thank you very much. And I want to hand over to Dr. Jeshuran to say the final words.
Thank you, Finis sir. And I would like to take this opportunity to thank our guest speaker for the day, Dr. Chandrasekharan Kali Perumal sir. Sir, it's been a real privilege to have you on board, and it's been a wonderful talk. Thanking you from the bottom of my heart and on behalf of our institution. It's been a privilege to have you for the last 1 hour or so. I know it's a precious hour that you have spared for us, and extremely grateful for that, sir. Looking forward to more perspectives from you in terms of different talks, and definitely looking forward to that. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
And Philip Finney, sir, thank you so much to you too. And I know that you came straight off your OPD after the whole day of work, and really grateful for that. And it's always a pleasure to hear your perspective too when it comes to research and medical education. You're an inspiration too for us. And thank you, sir. Thank you so much. And thank you for all the participants from various states, and it's really a pleasure to see you all from all stratas, right from professors to medical students, and we got some international students here today from Scotland, and I think that was VJ, right? So AJ. So it's really a great pleasure to bring everything, bring the global platform together, all the medical students and distinguished faculty together, and brainstorm and come up with good deliberations. So once again, it was such an honor and such a great fruitful session. I thank our guest speaker again, Chandrasekharan Kaliyaperumal sir. It's a great honor to have you. Thank you so much. And with this note, we are closing this session. And on the 15th, mind you, everybody, on the 15th, we have Dr. Paul Moriu Bezos from Houston, who is a consultant nephrologist who is talking to us on CKD. So I wish and I invite each one of you to be part of that session too, and I really hope that it will be a wonderful session moderated by our Chief of Nephrology, Dr. Rajesh Joseph. So looking forward to all of you to participate and have a wonderful evening, have a meaningful evening, in fact. So signing off from Believers Church Medical College and Hospital, Dr. Jacob. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, everybody. Goodbye.
Good luck.